Hi, Tim here with Free Range Munchkins. Today we're going to be making deer jerky. Stay tuned and we'll show you how we do it. Okay, so this year I was able to bring home a big buck on the hunting season. I was able to get a 10-point buck. And as fun as that thing was to put on the wall, it wasn't the most tender meat, and so one of the things that we decided to do with a lot of his less desirable cuts, because it is a pretty tough meat, is we're just going to grind it up and we're going to make jerky. So jerky's great. We love jerky, but unfortunately a lot of the jerky that you buy at the store now is full of nitrates and MSG and all kinds of harmful things. So we're going to make our own recipe here and make it healthy, and we're going to go with like a Asian theme. Here are our ingredients. We've got obviously ground venison. We're using some honey, ginger, garlic powder. We're going to use some toasted sesame seed oil, some cornstarch to thicken it, and then our base will be soy sauce. I'm going to saute a little onion to give it some caramelized flavor in butter until they're mostly brown. I don't want to see black, but I want most of the clear white to be gone. I want it to be more brown than anything, so that's going to give it the good caramel flavor that we're looking for. So next what we're going to do is we're going to put the cornstarch through a strainer, and this just helps keep the clumps from getting too crazy. And I'll show you a trick on thickening sauces with cornstarch that I found. First step, obviously strain it, and the second one is to just put a little bit of your liquid in there. Alright, it's always better to add a little liquid to your cornstarch than it is to add your cornstarch to your liquid, because if you add your cornstarch to your liquid, you get clumps. I'm going to mix this cornstarch all together until I get like a thick paste. And this cornstarch is good because it does a number of things for the jerky. First of all, it adds a little more texture to the marinade, so it sticks to the meat better. And second, cornstarch is an actual meat tenderizer, so it's going to help tenderize the meat for consumption as well. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and add all of my soy sauce right to the onions and deglaze the pot. And then I'm going to bring this up. Alright, so we've hit a boil. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add my garlic powder. Go with some ginger. These are all very precise measurements. Unfortunately, fortunately, one of my prior lives I was a chef, and so I do everything kind of by eyeball. So I'm not going to give you an exact recipe, but the general thing is just add the stuff in here for taste. I always like to go more taste rather than less taste, because if I overdo it on the seasonings, I can always stretch it out with more of whatever I'm seasoning. But if it's not got the flavor that I was looking for and it's bland, then nobody likes your cooking. Alright, so now that I've got this at a boil, I've got all my herbs in there. I'm going to hold off on putting the honey, or not herbs, but seasoning, spices. I'm going to hold off on the honey because I want that to actually cool before I add the honey, because of the raw honey. I want to keep all the good stuff from the raw honey. I'm just going to add that mixture of, get it all out of there, cornstarch. And what's going to happen, this won't happen unless your liquid is pretty hot. I might even have to warm this back up. But what's going to happen is it's going to start to thicken, and that's what we're looking for. We're looking for a nice thick marinade. This is cooling. I want to let this cool completely to less than 120 degrees, because I don't want to add that to my meat and actually cook my meat. So we're going to let that cool all the way. And while we're doing that, I'm going to show you our meat grinder. Now, we got this one from Gander Mountain. About $120. It wasn't the cheapest one, but it also wasn't the most expensive. And we found that it was very valuable, especially doing our farm lifestyle where we're going to be butchering animals. I take a couple of deer a year usually, and so it just saves us a lot of money being able to process it ourselves. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just cut my meat into chunks where I can get into the grinder relatively easy. So the first grind went through. We're going to put that back in the hopper and we're going to push it through for the second grind. So it's cooled, so we're going to put some of our organic raw honey into it. And I'm really not looking to make it overly sweet. I just want to give it a little sweet flavor. I'm going to put that in there, mix it in. Alright, now that that's mixed, I'm going to go ahead and add it to our meat. Get right in there and mix it all together. So before we go ahead and commit and put all this on the racks and start drying it out, I want to taste the profile for the flavor and make sure that we're there. So in order to do that, I'm just going to cook it up real quick, get a little taste there. The meat tastes good, so we're going to go ahead and start drying it out. In order to do that, you need some type of drying rack. Now, we made something that was 1/4 inch hardware screen, and I folded the edges to give it some rigidity. And it fits perfectly inside our oven, so that's what we're going to go ahead and dry it out. Now you can smoke it if you wanted to. We're kind of in a predicament where our freezer broke, so we've got to cure all this meat for long-term storage. So we're just going to go ahead and dry it out in our oven. In order to do that, though, you're going to want to put it on the lowest possible setting if you're going to use your oven and not a smoker. Now smoking, you typically want to be smoking your meat around 200 degrees, lower if you're doing jerky. We can get down to 170 on this oven, so that's going to be good. So we're going to go ahead and preheat that, and then Mrs. Free Range and I, through a coordinated effort, are going to start putting this on the hardware screen. We're using the sausage attachment, the smallest attachment, so that it gets it thinner in diameter, and that's going to allow it to dry quicker. You can obviously go bigger and thicker if you wanted to, but it's going to take a lot longer to dry. So we're just trying to get this done tonight, and so we're going to use a small setting. Another thing to note, and this is just from trial and error of doing this before, make certain that your jerky is not touching, the tubes of jerky doesn't touch each other, because it'll do less drying that way. If you sometimes not have a piece that gets all the way done when the rest of it is really dry. So spend some time making sure nothing's touching before you go ahead and put it in the oven. After 4 hours, this is what it looked like. We went ahead and turned the oven off and just let it sit for the rest of the night. And then go ahead and cut it up just however you want to.
The jerky is being tested by the most rigorous critics.
Hey, thanks for watching our Deer Jerky video. Hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, and feel free to tell us what you think in the comments below. Appreciate it. Have a great day.
Ha ha ha!